Well, I will go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Community Preservation Committee at 5:30 p.m., March 23rd, 2023. Let's do before we get started, I think Garth is the note taker today.
You only have that piece of paper, Garth?
Let's do
Check the copy.
No, Garth, I'm going to give you some.
we can do a roll call attendance while we're doing that. So Garth.
Here.
Tom.
Here.
Okay, Misty.
Here.
John.
Here.
Susan.
Here.
Giannis. Here. Donna is not here, and she actually said that she would probably join around 6. So Garth, I guess if you could make a note when Donna gets here,
Yeah.
so we'll know what time. And Dave.
Here.
And Travis, I'm also here. All right. So first on the agenda is approval of minutes from March 9th, 2023.
I move they be approved.
Second?
All right, motion to approve the minutes. Any other discussion on the minutes? I'm just going to do a roll call vote just since we're all kind of scattered. Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
Abstain.
okay. Misty,
Yes.
John,
Yep.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis,
Abstain as well.
Dave,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. So that motion passes, 2 abstaining, and Donna not here. Okay, so because we're going to be talking about projects and probably, hopefully voting on them tonight, on this agenda, we actually had public comment before we do our business, just so we can get any last minute comments. So we're going to have a public comment period now, 2 minutes per speaker. If all the speakers are done talking and you want to talk again, let us know. Just to keep it simple, I'll start here in the room and then we'll go online. So if there's anyone here in person who wants to make a public.
I'll say a word,
Sure.
quick word. I'm here, I was the person who submitted.
Could he come up here, maybe?
Oh yeah, if you could come up here just because the microphone's up here and then people online can hear you.
Which right there, at least.
But yeah, either way.
Just very briefly, Kim Boas, I submitted the Highland Park Trail renovation project, and I missed the last meeting, but I wanted to come here and encourage you to support that. I hope you do. I think it's worthwhile. It's a first step. It's a long-needed first step. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, I don't think we have anyone else in person, so if anyone,
Mike.
okay, yeah, Mike. Do you want to go ahead? Mike?
Mr. Chair, I have an update to our project, but we're not listed under that in the project update. Is it appropriate for me to do it now, or do you want to do it under project updates?
Does anyone have a preference on that? I don't know. I think it's fine if you want to just go ahead now, I guess.
Okay, great. Michael Nelson, I'm the president of the Franklin County Fairgrounds. We submitted a project to make some repairs to our roofs on our kettle barns, which is the project has obviously been being discussed for some time now. As we've continued to review the project, we've had the opportunity to connect with a few additional contractors. At the moment, our proposal was to apply a rubber membrane to the roof to get some additional life out of it. We've actually had the opportunity to come across a contractor who believes and has officially submitted a proposal to actually replace the kettle barn roof metal, as opposed to trying to make repairs to it at a relatively small increase to the price. Right now, the price was $79,000 and some change, which is what we submitted to the board. This contractor has indicated a $96,000 price to completely redo the metal roofing on all 3 roofs. So The previous plan would get us 10, 20 years at best. This plan would get us probably 40 or 50. It'd probably outlive everybody in this meeting for sure. So we're seeking to change our project from making repairs via adding a membrane to instead replacing the metal overall. So that is about a $16,000 increase, which is about 20%. However, you may have seen our social media that we recently received a very generous gift from Charter NEX for $10,000 towards historic preservation. We've also received a handful of other donations from local businesses and such to continue in our historic preservation campaign. So all said and done, I'm actually going to request a decrease to our proposal this evening down to $75,000 because we're going to, with the increase up to $96,000, but then the 20-something thousand dollars we've received, I think it's appropriate for us to reduce our request down to 75.
Okay, thank you. And I think if anyone has any questions, maybe once we get to the project updates, we could ask you some questions if you're still here. All right. It looks like Alyssa has her hand up.
Hey folks, Alyssa LaRose from Franklin County Regional Housing Authority and Rural Development Inc. And Greenfield resident. I'm just speaking on behalf of CSO in the Wall Street project application. I just wanted to note that the recent point in time count of homelessness in the county, those numbers have been released and numbers are continue to go up. And so I just want to, again, kind of express the need for this project. And we know that the CPA funds are just one kind of piece of the total funding, but construction costs are up. And we actually really do need all the support we can get for this project to really come to fruition. And so I just wanted to put that out there for folks. And yeah, we really appreciate all the work that the CPC is putting into the review of all these projects. So thank you.
Thank you. And does anyone else like to make a public comment? Seeing none, I don't see anyone here in person either, so, all right, thank you. So, next on our agenda, we have new business, updates from applicants, bike route feasibility study. We actually received 2 emails from George updating us on this project. I don't know if we need to read the whole email, but essentially the first email, hold on, let me make sure I go to the first one. The first email, George was making 2 points that the proposed off-road component is entirely in Deerfield, as we were discussing, but it would be a holistic assessment of the link between the 2 communities. And also, he said about taking a left turn from the bridge. He said, I want to emphasize to the committee that the left turn John described is not part of the project I'm proposing. So those were 2 points that he wanted to make. And then he sent a follow-up email today because originally, the plan had changed. Originally it was, it's a $50,000 project and there's going to be 25,000 Greenfield, 25,000 Deerfield. And then he said 20,000 would be Greenfield, 30,000 Deerfield. But he found out that in Deerfield, they can only apply for 20,000. So it would be 20,000 Deerfield, 20,000 Greenfield. And he said he spoke to someone at FERCog who he had originally spoken to about the estimate for 50,000. And he said that she assured me that we would be able to scale back the scope of work for the study so that it could be completed for the reduced amount for if they receive the 40,000. So those were 2 updates we received from that project. This is new so in addition to that, new business that I meant to talk about last time, but we didn't, is that Giannis submitted his resignation from the CPC effective June 1st. So I think we all got a copy of that letter last time, but I just wanted to mention it in the meeting and thank Giannis for being here, while he's been here. And the mayor also, so Giannis is a mayoral appointment, so the mayor will be appointing the person who takes over after Giannis leaves. And we can, if we have any ideas for someone who might be a good fit for the CPC, we can recommend someone to the mayor as well. So just wanted to throw that out there. Great. Okay, so updates from applicants, like I said, does anyone have any questions about for Michael or anything that we just learned?
Oh, Mike, is it like essentially the same kind of metal or whatever that will be replacing it?
Yes, exactly. It would be the same type of metal. We're actually waiting for confirmation from the State Historic Commission whether we can use the metal. So there's two types of metal roofing up at the fairgrounds. There's the style that's currently on the barns that is obviously rusting out. And actually, when you go into any sort of hardware store, it now actually says that it should not be used for metal. It should not be used for roofs because, surprise, it rusts out prematurely. So we're seeking whether or not there is an appropriate metal that looks similar to it that would complement it and be replaced. The other option would be we have a red metal roofing on all the other buildings, the vast majority of the other buildings. And so we're waiting to hear back from the State Historic Board whether we would actually be able to use the red roofing. That way all the roofs up there would be matching and cohesive. But
regarding like the red standing seam?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Standard.
Yep. So we're just waiting for their thumbs up of preferably we would like to do the red roof. That way all the roofs up there are matching. But our backup would be the replacement of the similar style roof as exists with the gray roofing.
Thank you.
And either one of them are about the same price in that same 96,000 range.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we can move on to old business, which is CPC project review.
Tom's got a hand up.
Oh, Tom, you got your hand up?
Almost trying to speak, you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted if you're trying.
Can't see you, so we don't know.
Maybe just accidentally.
I'm sorry. Just because I don't have everything on the fairgrounds in front of me here where I am, what is the match that is being provided by the society or other grants to match this money?
That's a great question. So we have, this is a full rehabilitation of the whole building, all three of the buildings. So included in the match are electrical improvements, structural improvements, and then whitewashing as well. So we were including a $80,000 match. Now that we have gotten that additional funding from the private sources we talked about earlier, it's now a bit over $100,000 in a cash match.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question. Okay, so on our agenda under old business, we have CPC project review and then voting on project recommendations. So CPC project review, I guess a good place to start would be at the last meeting, we all, we were talking about how much funding for different projects. And so we decided we were all going to go home and fill out all of the funding for all the projects. And then Christian put together a spreadsheet. I don't know if you want to bring that might be helpful to share. So we have a printout here in person. But this kind of puts together all of the numbers that all of us filled out. So the ones that are highlighted in green are ones where a majority of us are recommending fully funding a project. And the ones in red are ones where a majority of us, at least, are recommending that a project does not get funded at all. And then the ones in yellow are ones that were kind of in the middle. Some were full funding, some no funding, some half funding, partial funding. So, and then there are two abstentions by John and Susan on those projects. So it's a little complicated, but so my thought was, and then also once we get around to voting, Christian provided some examples of motions that we can use. And this has different ideas for whether it's from just one specific reserve, undesignated, or both, or Christian actually found examples where they motion to deny funding for projects. And I think that makes sense because it just kind of like finalizes our funding cycle instead of just leaving it open-ended. Because then, the other options are we either just don't mention it or we make a motion to fund it and then vote against it. But I think it's a little cleaner to make a motion to deny funding if there's a project that we think we're not going to fund.
Tom has his hand raised.
Oh, Tom, go ahead. Oh, you're muted again, by the way.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm trying to behave and not chortle on everything, so I put myself on mute. I made an error. I need to just correct it for the record relative to the 25 on the pickleball expansion. That I put 50 in there. It didn't, apparently I didn't save it to carry it through to you. That should be 50 instead of 25, and the total would then be 336. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So, so one thought I had was it might be easiest to start with the least controversial among the committee members and actually motion to fund or not fund those projects and just knock them out and then,
that sounds good.
especially if there's something that we all unanimously said a certain thing. And, just because you did send in these numbers doesn't mean you have to stick to it. And, we can all change our minds and vote different ways and whatever. But I thought that might be the easiest way to go around. And then also if we start with, as we're going through, making motions to use the specific reserve funds until those are exhausted in each category. And then we'll be left with projects where we need the flexible funds, and because that's where it gets a little more complicated. So if we start with,
Start with small and a
or
store.
lower. Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, anyone can make a motion. If people would prefer me to just read off of this.
I move to recommend we expend $750 from the recreation reserve for the ADA track project.
Second.
All right, motion, yeah, so.
Yeah, make sure you have whoever made the motion and who seconded it.
Yeah, so we have a motion to recommend 750 from recreation for the ADA track project that was seconded. The other thing is if we have any conditions we need to place on any projects, and we can do that in our motions too. Is there any discussion on this motion before we vote? I think Tom might have his hand up again.
No, I may not have taken it down. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Any discussion on this before we vote on it? Okay, so I'm gonna do a roll call vote. So the motion for 750 for the ADA track, Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes,
Wisty,
Yes.
John,
Yep.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis,
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
All right, I am also a yes. And I'm assuming Donna is not here yet?
No.
Okay, Donna is not here yet. So, okay, so that motion passes and we will recommend 750 from recreation for the ADA track. I wish I had a pen. Oh, here we go. Thanks.
So yeah, I'm kind of like putting a box around the ones that are swapped in.
Oh, yeah, you got it up there.
Change it to a different color.
Yeah, something.
But it's some sort of animation, like you click on it, it goes like.
I'm gonna make them blue.
Yeah, like confetti or something.
Right?
Okay, great.
Congratulations.
I would like to make a motion. I'm trying to, I would like to move that the historical documentation preservation project be fully funded from out of the historic reserve. I need to do anything?
Okay, no, that's gonna be good.
Good enough.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to fully fund the historic document preservation from the historic reserve. Any other discussion on that project? I guess one question that I have for John is, I think the Historic Commission, this was one where the Historic Commission needed to say that these documents were historic to Greenfield,
Right, yeah.
and did that happen?
It did happen at the meeting, yes. So we
Okay.
discussed at the meeting and we would be the right, we concurred and verified that we felt that it was substantial.
Okay.
Historic, yeah.
Okay, so just, Christian and I were talking earlier, when we talked to Stuart before, he said that when it comes to projects like that, it could be that the Historic Commission submits like a letter saying that, but it doesn't have to be, like, we can hear from someone at the Historic Commission. So I just wanted to clarify that before we voted on it. Okay, any other discussion on document preservation? Okay, seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote on fully funding document preservation from the Historic Reserve. Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
yes,
Wisty,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Donna? Still not here, I'm assuming. All right, and.
You got Tom?
Yeah, I got Tom.
Okay.
And I am also a yes. So that passes unanimously among the members who are here. All right. That's two down. Are you filling in? Are you filling in like what? Oh, sorry, Giannis, go ahead.
Sorry if I missed this from our last meeting, but do we need to finalize all of these today?
Yes.
Yeah, to keep the schedule with city council, I think we do.
Yeah, if you,
Okay.
I mean, you could have another month, but then it would be a little bit tighter schedule for city council. If you do it today, you can be at committee chairs for next month. And you'll be, give them more time if they want to take their time.
My proposal is maybe we do all the ones that are non-controversial and then give the members like a couple of minutes, maybe like a bathroom break or something, just to like rethink about, because I want to rethink about my ranks after the uncontroversial ones are all squared away here for the remaining funding.
That makes sense. Yeah, I guess someone could, we can have a recess once we get to that point.
Yeah.
Seventh inning stretch.
Yeah.
Fifth inning stretch, whatever.
So there is, the drinking fountain one is one that was unanimous among us in our scoring.
On the drinking fountain? Or is,
Yeah, I make a motion that we do not fund the project.
Second.
Okay. John, so do we have any discussion on this project? Okay, so we have a motion to deny funding for the drinking fountain at Highland Park Tennis Courts. Do a roll call vote on that, Garth? So
Yes,
just to be
yes to
clear-
deny.
To be clear, a yes means you are voting to deny funding to the project.
And so I have a little question about that, just in terms, like, so does that mean, is that like where this form comes in, like where, if this were to come back next year, or that would be a
It could come back next
Will be
year,
totally new
and that
deal.
would be, yeah, they could apply next year and it can potentially get funded next year. This is just to deny funding for this round of funding,
Okay, right on.
not permanently for.
Right, so with prejudice, there will be no drinking fountain within 500 yards of the tennis courts ever.
I just saw that, I think Donna did chime in. Did you guys see
Okay.
that?
Donna here, Christie had made a comment about Donna being here in 10 minutes. I think that's what that might have been.
Oh, okay.
Okay, anyway, sorry.
Okay, so we have, just to get back into this, so we have a motion to deny funding for this year, this round of funding to the drinking fountain in Highland Park Tennis Courts. And a yes means you are voting to deny funding to the project this year. So Garth,
Yes.
Tom, we can't hear you if you said anything.
I didn't.
Okay, are you voting?
I voted no.
Oh, sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Right, you voted yes or you voted no?
I voted yes, not to fund it.
Okay, Wisty,
yes.
John,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis.
Abstain.
Okay, I'm assuming Donna's not here yet.
Nope, still not done.
Okay, Dave?
Yes.
All right, and I am also a yes. So for this year, the drinking fountain at Highland Park will not be funded. That motion passes.
So I would like to vote, what do I say?
Oh, it's on this piece of
Make
paper.
a motion?
I move,
Fill in the blank. It's like Mad Libs. Yeah. Go with somebody else's money.
I move to recommend $1,000 from the from the historic reserve for the MOIH shop equipment restoration.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion for $1,000 from the historic reserve, which would fully fund the shop equipment restoration. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote on that. So Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis.
Yes.
No Donna yet, I assume. Nope. I'll wait until you tell me Donna's here. All right, Dave.
Yes.
All right, and I am also a yes. So that motion passes unanimously, and we will fund the shop, or recommend funding for the shop equipment restoration, $1,000 from historic reserve. Okay, I gotta cross these out here.
Well, now that I know how to do it, I want to do another. Go for it.
Go for it.
I move to recommend $15,000 from the recreation reserve for the Boaz Trail restoration.
Second.
Dave beat you on that one?
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay.
We have a mo-
It's okay.
Feels like Jeopardy, doesn't
It does.
Yeah. So motion by Misty, seconded by Dave, for 15,000 to fully fund the trail restoration, from the recreation reserve. Any other discussion on that? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes?
John,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis,
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Okay, so that passes unanimously. $15,000 for trail restoration from the Recreation Reserve.
Congratulations. Maybe. We'll see what town council says.
Yeah.
Don't call up AmeriCorps quite yet.
They're asking.
Could I make a motion?
Sure.
I would like to make a motion to move to recommend $100,000 for the CSO Well Street shelter expansion to be taken from the reserves. Now, that comes out of two reserves. doesn't it?
Yeah, so I have numbers here that add up to 100,000.
Okay, good, thank you.
I'd like to read those.
And, oh, sorry, what was that?
I just seconded the motion, that's all.
Okay,
Second,
so the motion,
recommend 100,000 from a housing reserve.
I guess we need to break down the
And so Travis, do you want to make
You got
a
the
friendly
numbers up
amendment,
there?
just reading off the
47,523, 60.69?
Yep.
Okay, and the remainder is 52,476.31. 478, 76?
476.
Yeah, okay.
My comment for next year is we make everything round numbers.
All right.
This year we made the round number the total number, which makes the other ones not round numbers.
Right, that is the problem.
Okay, so we have a motion for $100,000, which would fully fund the request for the Well Street shelter expansion. It was seconded by Tom. Susan is out of the room because she is abstaining from this project. Any other discussion on this?
I mean, I guess I kind of go back to what I said before. I mean, it's 100 grand is a lot out of our budget. That's kind of a big bite, and it's a worthy project, sure, but skin of the game, that's a lot of skin off of our back. And I don't know. I'm not sure what anybody can say to change that, because that's just a fact of the matter, right? Whatever, that's just money that we're not going to get back or fund to something else. And if we want to fund some other stuff here that, that might reach other people too, then we can't do that. So I guess, what do you guys think about that?
So Alyssa raised her hand just to be, so you're aware.
Okay.
Am I allowed to respond to that as the applicant or on behalf of the applicant?
I don't know.
I don't know.
This is our first time we're doing this, so.
I'm
Yeah.
the boss, but
Yeah.
otherwise we're going to get into a back and forth.
Yeah, I think maybe if we ask you a direct question, how about that?
Sure thing.
Okay. All right. So, I guess I wanted to add that this was one that I thought about for a while, when I was filling out this sheet. And, I was looking at our plan, we talked about our highest priority is to create greater housing choice, foster diversity of housing options. And then, this also, we ranked this project higher than any other project because, a lot of our ranking is based on does it significantly impact disadvantaged populations? Is it urgent? Does it have leveraging funds for outside funding too? So to me, it kind of hit all of the points that we asked a project to hit. And then also the fact that it is a housing project. And I kind of feel like housing projects probably aren't going to come along that often, if I had to guess.
Good point.
And it's kind of quote unquote unfortunate that it happened this time because, we haven't like saved up money for a housing project yet, you know,
Yeah.
because and that's kind of, in my mind, that's what I was thinking would probably happen, is that because housing's so expensive, we would probably go like a few years before one even came along, and then we would have money saved up in the housing fund. But since we don't have that this year, and because housing, I mean, I have nothing against the recreation projects or historical preservation, you know, personally, but in terms of urgency, it feels that housing unhoused people is more urgent than any of those other projects to me, I think. So,
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with all that. I mean, I guess I look at it like, it's gonna get done anyway. It's gonna get built. If we give it money or not, really, it's still gonna happen. I mean, in some of the, and I'm devil's advocate, whatever you wanna say, but a lot of the stuff up here, it will never happen without CPC money. You know, there's tens of millions of dollars. You know, they're not gonna be like, oh, Greenfield only gave it 75,000, we're not gonna do it. You know, and that's all. I mean, you know, and I realize where everybody else is coming from, and, you know, I just look at it
That was
like,
my thought on it too, is like,
yeah, you know,
right, we need to show that we are in fact interested in this, and it's an amazing project. It's ridiculously expensive because of all of the craziness that it involves. It's not really going to change the project if we offer 45, 55, 75 or $100,000. Like, I don't think it's, I mean, maybe we're not going to carpet the hallways if we give them, you know, 60,000 versus 100,000. That seems unlikely. And so, yeah, in terms of, you know, what else fits in there, like, I mean, obviously we're kind of working down what we'd agreed on, and, you know, yes, housing has been a prime.
So Tom raised his hand.
okay, Tom, you have your hand up?
Yeah, this, you know, the funders want to see a commitment from the community at large, and this is one way to show that. The other thing I want to bring up, and this is not just for the record, GHA or GHAI is not a formal party to this at all, so there's no conflict with my discussion here. What this will do is allow people that are experiencing homelessness to do a stepwise process and move into what perhaps the housing authority offers, or what can offer into permanent housing. This project will have tenfold ramifications to assure folks that experience homelessness have the opportunity for permanent, safe, clean, and affordable housing. And I think that this expenditure, while it is a lot, and I do appreciate the comments made, I think it makes a strong commitment that the city is backing housing beyond its discussion in public meetings and beyond the long-term comprehensive plan. This puts into action the implementation steps within that plan as well. And I think it's money well spent.
Dave?
I agree with what's been said. I think it's one of the largest challenges the city is facing. So for that reason, I think every dollar that we can put toward this legitimately is warranted. In the spirit of getting a little bit more information, I'd like to ask the question in hopes that we can get a response as to why $100,000 is my question.
Is that a question to Alyssa?
To Alyssa.
Sure. So 100,000 we thought was an appropriate ask given your full amount of funding. We knew this was your first year with CPA funds, and we didn't want to you know, we didn't want to ask for like the full boat or something like that. We felt this was appropriate. It's meets your top priorities of your plan. It actually is critical to the budget at this point to make the budget whole. I do have a few updates on funding from the application. We didn't get the $50,000 from Charles Bank Homes. They tend to fund much smaller projects. We do hope for up to 200,000 from CDBG with an application that the city put in earlier this month. The state is expecting to make announcements on funding in April for a large piece of the funding. We are working on another project, or CSO is working on another project in Springfield that's a little further along than the Well Street project. And the estimates that are coming back on construction, unfortunately, are higher even than when we put in our funding request. So we are looking at, you know, making changes to the design because we know that even what we're requesting probably isn't going to be enough to do everything that we had hoped for. So we really do, you know, we'd love to get fully funded from you. I would think the other thing to note is, yes, 100,000 seems like a lot to this committee with this first year of funding, but a lot of communities across the state do provide CPA funds as their local match. And for instance, Rural Development Inc. just finished a project in Sunderland that took a good 8 to 9 years to come to fruition, but Sunderland was able to provide $350,000 of CPA fund towards that project. They had been a CPA community for much longer, so they had more money. But again, that's why we tried to kind of balance our needs with what you guys all have. We recognize you don't have a huge pot. So I guess that's my answer. If you have any follow-up questions, let me know.
Okay, thank you. I think Wisty might.
So it's not a question. I just wanted to make a comment.
Sure.
And yes to everything that has been said. And I really am respecting what John, you've said, and Garth particularly. In my mind, though, most of these other projects for me, which I really value, would be for my enjoyment. When I think about housing, that's a whole different need. And so it just is a different kind of thing. And I really appreciate what you were saying, Travis, about it sure would have been nice if over several years we had saved the $47,000, save it up, save it up, save it up. That would have been great, but we didn't have that luxury. So while this is here, I would just hope that we would give the full amount.
Okay, does any other committee members have any other comments or discussion before we vote on this?
So you can, when you're calling the question, Susan can come back and abstain at the vote, but she should be here for the vote. She should be here for the, I believe so.
Okay.
Just,
All right.
she can.
Okay.
Where she is, but she's still abstaining.
Yeah, sorry. Earlier I said Susan was abstaining, but what I meant was that she was recusing herself from the project. Recused. So, okay, so hearing no other discussion, let me get my.
Excuse me, can I vote or?
You can,
Or do I need-
you can abstain
I can
from the
say,
vote.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, I just want to make sure I knew what I was supposed to do.
Yep. So, okay, so the motion is for $47,523.69 from the housing reserve and $52,476.31 from the undesignated fund or the flexible fund for the Wells Street Shelter Expansion Project, which would fully fund the request. So we'll do a roll call vote on that. Garth? Did purchase first. You were a yes?
Yes.
Okay, Garth is a yes. Tom?
Yes.
Wisty?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Susan?
Abstain?
Giannis?
Yes.
Donna? I don't know if Donna's here. No, okay. Donna's not here yet. Dave?
Yes.
I am also a yes. Okay, so.
Yeah, no, I totally am. And
So we will be fully funding the request for the Wells Street shelter, or recommending fully funding the Wells Street shelter expansion. Okay, so we do have,
no, it's super important.
we do have a couple other projects that we were almost unanimous on. The pond aerator, I guess that one is the main one.
Yeah.
I move that we don't fund the Highland Park Pond aerator this year.
I second that.
Okay. Motion to deny funding to the pond aerator this year. Seconded. Any other discussion on that? Yes, Susan.
I would like to just say to them as part of this, that we really would like to see them do a study and figure out what is the most appropriate way to deal with this issue of the pond and come back to us, in the future, because it's just that it doesn't feel ready for prime time, basically.
Yeah, hopefully they will. I mean, I think if anything, they got a lot of support from us in terms of the spirit of it, and we recognize that it's a thing, So.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote on the motion to deny funding this year to the Highland Pond aerator project. Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
and I am also a yes. All right, so that's another one off the list. So no funding being recommended this year to the Highland Pond. This pen just died. I can't use it. So Highland Pond aerator. Yes.
I want to, is it appropriate to now ask if we know the results of Ways and Means and if they send
yeah.
any?
Yeah, because that can affect,
Now Christie's here. If you want to pose that question to Christie, she'll have all the updates.
She'll know about the Ways and Means?
They're her projects, so she's probably following.
yeah, Christy, if you're here, do you have any updates on Ways and Means for the capital funding request for the two projects?
I have not met with Ways and Means. I meet with them next Wednesday, the 29th. So I have no new information to share that I hadn't already shared at the last meeting.
Okay, thanks. Susan, I think you said you were gonna attend meeting or?
I was not able to.
Okay.
I believe they might have just done like first readings.
Yes.
I think that's the extent of what I think that might. Yeah.
What does the first reading mean?
They're just officially putting it on the record.
Oh, it's-
City Council, it's been out there in a public meeting at that point.
Because I saw that on the agenda.
Yeah.
And I guess for me personally, regarding the, okay, so the two that were, which, it was the Highland Park signage and Beacon Park.
Beacon Park were both.
Yeah, those were the
Capital.
two. And I guess, I just wanted to say for me personally, I put $0 for both of those, and not because I thought that they were bad projects or anything, but that the other projects don't have the potential for any capital funding this year. And so I thought, weighing where the money's coming from and everything, to me personally, I thought if those have a chance at capital funds, let's wait until it goes through that process. And then if they want to come back next year, if they don't get the funds, and then we could potentially fund other projects that don't even have the potential to get capital funding this year. So that was just where I personally put numbers down for those
That's
two.
hard.
That's what I did too.
So we have
I would,
two.
sorry,
Oh, were you going to make a motion?
I was gonna just say, it looks like the Shattuck Fitness Cluster had a lot of support. I wonder if it's, I would float the balloon of, I recommend we use 24,000. I believe we still have it from
Yeah, I think up here, in the green is what you've been updating this, is that right?
Yeah, so even before the meeting, I had filled it out just based on where the green and red was as best I could, just to give us kind of a starting place.
Good.
So the 24,000 is filled under recreation.
Recreation. So yeah, I would move to recommend 24,000 from recreation for the Shattuck Fitness Cluster project.
Second.
Okay, motion to fully fund Shattuck Fitness Cluster from the Recreation Reserve. Seconded. Any other discussion on that one? I know that one did have 3 people who recommended no funding, so just wanted to give people a chance to change everyone's minds if they want.
So good.
Okay, I'm not hearing any discussion, so we'll do a roll call vote on fully funding Shattuck Fitness Cluster 24,000 from Recreation Reserve. Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
No.
Wisty?
No.
Okay. Let me. I'm gonna have to keep track here. Okay, John,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis,
Yes.
guessing Donna's not here.
Donna is here.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yes. Donna arrived.
Wait, is that your actual background and not a fake background? You're actually at the beach?
I'm in Hollywood Beach, Florida. I'm sorry I'm late. My boat was late, folks.
Wow.
Didn't want to miss it. So I
Lame
say yes
excuse.
on that one.
This is why we have hybrid meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dave?
Yes.
And I am also a yes on that. So what were the numbers there? We had
Got 7 yes and 2 no.
7 yes and 2 no, so that motion passes. And we are recommending fully funding the Shattuck Fitness Cluster from the Recreation Reserve. So we have 2 more on the list. That we were relatively close. I don't know. Giannis had recommended maybe we like take a break after we do all the ones that we mostly agreed on. I don't know if people.
We have one
If you
more to
want, I
go.
mean, I feel like we're good, right? I feel like we got a little head of steam going and
I do too.
Yeah.
I want to stay in it.
Okay, and so the next one that we have that was least controversial among us was the Highland Park signage. We had 6 people recommended no funding and no one recommended full funding.
I make a motion that we do not fund.
The Highland Park signage.
Correct.
Second.
Okay, I think Susan beat you to that one, Tom.
Fine.
So we have a motion to deny funding to the Highland Park signage, seconded. Any other discussion on that?
I mean, obviously I was the outlier on that one.
That's fine.
I put in the 80,000 because that was sort of like if they did the stage thing, that was like the stage 1. That was an interesting one. I was super excited for it. I was thinking like, cool, somebody walks around with their GPS and then somebody plays with the router and we have like a $15,000 project. There's a bunch of like Larry Clark kind of signs. And we print out some maps and stick them on the things we have there, like we've had for the last 25 years, for better or worse. So obviously this is a much bigger project. We're looking at large signs. It does feel appropriate to go to capital as well. But it does also feel like a pretty good project. But yeah, I guess we'll see how capital goes and see how, maybe they come back with like, oh, need to be able to do this.
Yeah. And I really like the project a lot. But the fact that it's going to capital, and I do think it would be a good thing for the whole city to invest in. And in my mind, there would be room to play around with maybe getting slightly less expensive signage, but I don't want to even go there. But I think it's a great project. But given the interest in capital, I don't want to do it right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with Wisty. Of the two projects that are before capital, considering that Beacon Park has already gotten money from the city, this one seems to me to be more likely to be getting money from capital. And so that was part of the reason that I wanted to wait and see for sure.
Okay. Yeah, no. Everything I said before already applies. I figured if it was going through capital, then I wanted to wait and see. Any other comments on this one? Anyone online? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So we have a motion to deny funding for the Highland Park signage. And I'll do a roll call vote on that. Garth? So a yes means you want to deny funding. Garth?
No.
Tom?
Yes.
Wisty?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Giannis?
Yes,
Was that a yes?
that was a yes.
Okay, sorry, just want to make sure. Donna?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
All right, and I'm also a yes, so motion passes to deny funding to the Highland Park signage. I'll look at the numbers that we've got up here.
So right now,
Yeah,
the housing reserve has been fully expended, obviously. Historic, you've had 16,500, you still have 47,000-ish.
Nope, still have 31.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 31,000, sorry. And recreation, let me,
Yeah, maybe just update to where we
I'm
are.
just gonna
right
remove anything that's, you guys have not voted on. I think that was it. So 7,773 and 69 is left in recreation, and 139,952 and 62 cents is left in the flexible / undesignated.
now. Okay, and of the projects that we have left, what is the total amount that we're looking at here? I'm trying to figure out how close we are to.
The barns are adjusted to 75. The pickleball's 300,000.
Christian, did you want to change them to blue, all the ones that we went over? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, the ones that are blue are ones you have voted yes on to fund. The ones that are in dark red are ones you have voted.
Oh, I get you. Wow, nuance.
All right. Very good.
Okay.
Very good. Okay. All right, we got it.
So we still have the bike study, 20,000. Site amenities, 109,000. Beacon Park, 5,000. And barn rehabilitation.
And pickleball.
And pickleball, 300,000.
Well,
Seems like we should go pickleball
Yeah,
next.
yeah. Make a motion.
Yep.
I make a motion that we do not fund pickleball court expansion.
Is there a
Second?
Okay, motion to deny funding to pickleball, seconded. Any discussion on that? Yeah, Susan.
Yeah, I put $25,000 in because I thought that it made sense for the feasibility study to go ahead, even though but expected other funds to come in as a result. So I don't think we should totally not fund it.
Yeah, and I guess my thinking, I did put 0 on this one, mainly because, like a lot of when we were scoring the projects, we were saying that we wanted projects that like funds are being leveraged from other sources and things that like, especially if it had already been denied capital funding or I don't know, to me, this one felt a little early in the process it was like, boom, let's ask for the full amount and try and get it from the CPA. And there might not have been, I think someone last time mentioned like the skate park and like, obviously I don't want it to take a long time for projects to be done, but there was a lot more.
It's 11 years.
Yeah.
It's definitely a similar trajectory, I think, you know.
Yeah.
But there could be like, all right, so there's the Greenfield Pickleballs, maybe they form an association, they have some fundraisers, they do some outreach. Right,
Or-
they raise
Right.
$5,000,
Yeah.
something,
Right,
they're
right.
like, oh, we're gonna hand clear it with a volunteer day, and we'll go down there. And
Yeah, I mean, I obviously had a lot of problems with the project, again, like none of the projects, it's not like, I like or dislike per se, but like in terms of serving the largest number of people in town, and people that are underserved and people that don't have access, it wasn't really hitting a lot of notes for me, yeah, in a nutshell.
I found myself swinging all the way from one end to the other. I didn't know very much about pickleball when we started. And the forum that we had, the public forum that we had with the costumes and all of the excitement, I thought was, man, I've been missing out on something in this city. And the allegation that they're coming from Vermont and from other states. And I'm saying, well, wow, this sounds really exciting. So I was very much a bull on at that time. And then as I saw what the public reaction was in the survey that we did, which I think they came out number 9, that kind of surprised me a little bit. And then I began to wonder about the actual support that they were getting. And I didn't hear anything about monetary support. That they had any kind of bake sales or any kind of support in that way. And so I began to fade in my sense about this and say, it sounds like it's a good thing, but I just don't think we're ready for it. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
so this is a hard one for me, but I think personally, I think we should fund the feasibility in the architectural work or whatever, the engineering of this. This is going to become more and more popular with more and more people as people are exposed to it. As I said at a meeting that I knew Christie had to have the defibrillator near. This is probably, in addition to the housing and some of the other things, this probably meets the spirit of the CPA as good as any project that has come forward. And I would like to, after this vote is made, I'm going to make another motion.
Okay. There was something I was going to say. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's a marvelous game. It is going to be, just like Tom said, it's going to be more and more popular. But I think the siting of it, I think that much more, I wish the city would take it on.
Yeah.
Because I think the location of it is hugely important, and I don't think that that's a great location for it. I think the whole concept of it, it would be a huge project for the Department of Recreation, for the city. But I think it's so good, it's worth all of that. And I just think it needs a whole lot more thought.
My only response to that, and I know there's a disagreement with some of the members, I think the location is fantastic for that. I think it's a great.
No, not at all. Not at all, dude. I think that people don't even know where that is. You can't get to it except by car. It's down a steep hill. I mean, who are we talking about? Dudes with dudes after work like me? Yeah, I can get there.
I don't know.
But-
I used to ride my bike over that hill to play hockey.
Yeah, well, you would. I also used to, ride down 5 and 10 over past the walk, but I wouldn't do that. And I certainly wouldn't send my kid down there either.
Well,
I think,
that's fine. I think it's a good spot. We got different opinions. That's all.
yeah. I mean,
The minutes will reflect that there was various discussion about location.
I saw Giannis had his hand up, I think.
Yeah, just a general comment that similar to a couple other folks here, I'm in favor of at least funding some sort of feasibility study if that's on the table.
Okay.
Is that a thing? Can we,
Yeah, we could partially fund it.
could we fund it and say, well, that's for feasibility?
Yes.
Or it's, I mean,
Yeah, I think so, because we can.
it sounds like it's already, they already did that because that's, right? I mean, they want to put it there. It's not like we're
Well, I
going to
think
say,
it
we'll
was-
put it somewhere else.
I don't think it was a
Right.
feasibility. I think it was like the,
There's-
architectural design.
The site prep and layout
Donna may have
was
it.
like 25K, and then it was 40K per thing after that, plus
Okay.
Hold on,
parking.
Donna had her hand up. Donna?
Yeah, can we move this question? Because it sounds like there's going to be another one right after it. So if we vote on this, then we can move forward.
I don't know. She wants,
She wants us to go ahead.
Just vote.
That's the
question.
Is there any more discussion that would change someone's vote about not doing $100,000 or $300,000?
$300,000.
Well, isn't the motion is to deny?
The motion is to deny the fund.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, technically,
If you're thinking about doing a motion afterward, you should do an amendment now before the vote. Amend it as much as you want.
Okay, thank you. I offer a friendly amendment to reduce the scope of this from $300,000 to $50,000 to cover the design and ancillary costs that may be involved with putting this together.
Too much.
So you're
I would like to,
proposing 50,000?
I would like to ask Christie a question. Christie, what do you need for a feasibility study?
So in the application, we had put the 25 contractual. When Tom reached out to me, as I said last time, the skate park was 63,000 with the design, engineering, surveying. So I think that's why he's come up with 50. It's kind of in the middle.
Thank you.
okay, so
Tom has made a motion to amend it to 50,000.
so we have to vote on the motion to amend.
Second.
We need a second if anyone wants to second his motion for 50,000.
I
Otherwise,
vote 50.
so Tom made a motion, yeah, to fund it at 50,000. And if that doesn't get a second, then it dies. Does anyone want to second that?
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Giannis.
Can I,
Any discussion on that before we vote on the motion to amend?
I would like to say that considering we've been talking about where money comes from, if we were to do that, it would be 7,773.69 from the recreation fund and the rest of it from the flexible funding.
Okay,
That's just on the barn.
clarifying.
Yeah, it's just a clarifying statement.
So,
Okay, so,
Question,
yeah, if-
can I,
yeah.
in order, are we still talking about Abercrombie?
Yes, we're still talking.
It's the
right, that kind of was my, so
the amendment is just to change the amount.
change the amount, but
Yeah.
The project is still the project as presented.
At Abercrombie.
Yeah. So any other discussion on the amendment to 50,000?
So
So we're gonna have at least two votes here. We're gonna vote either to amend it to 50,000. If that passes, then the motion is for 50,000. If it fails, then we go back and vote on the motion to deny.
okay, and so we're not specifying this as feasibility?
I mean, we can.
We can.
Yeah.
Design, engineering, and feasibility. think.
Yeah, I think he said that when he.
Okay, so this one other thing that I want to know though is,
Well,
Within
it's
that-
50,000 to the project.
yeah, would that also be
I don't know like how
that
much you want to like,
if somebody is looking at that and analyzing it, would they even analyze its location? Would that be part of what the analysis would be?
right, that's a good, yeah, I think that's
I
what,
don't think so. I mean, I guess we could ask.
We can ask Christie. Christie?
Yeah, when you hire an engineer or landscape architect, they're going to review the site. They're going to look at the soil materials, what's around it. And as I said, We may need to survey it if there's boundary questions. They're gonna look at all of that like we did with the skate park, like we did with Green River Park. Any construction project, when you do an analysis of a site, that's all included.
Okay, and what I meant was an analysis of the city to see if it's the best
Yeah.
location in the city.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at, or we're thinking about, is that would the analysis go into exploring other possible locations for the pickleball courts, or would it be still there? That, because it seems like it's already been decided that it's going to be there. So that seems like some work's already been done on that.
That is correct. This is the city property that the city owns that has enough space for the expansion to build courts there. It doesn't mean that in the contract, we could ask the designer to look at some other properties that the town has, but you have to remember it's a pretty big piece of property. And John, you've been around long enough to know how long it took to find a piece of property for the skate park. Like, we looked at every little piece of property for that, and we've done similar things because it's the same pieces of property that we still own for pickleball expansion, and this was the best place.
So yeah, that was my next question is, so in your expert opinion, that Abercrombie Field is the best place, meaning it's got the big enough space, et cetera, the town owns it, right? Is that
Yep.
a fair statement?
Parking, et cetera.
It sounds like the study would mainly.
Can I ask one other question?
Yes, go for it.
So, given that the site's already chosen and you kind of know how many courts you want, is a feasibility study a waste of money or is it necessary?
I think it's more of a
It's not a feasibility, it's site prep.
Well, we would all, it is kind of both, Garth, because if they find something in the soil, if it can't hold a blacktop like the skate park, then we know we can't move forward. And that's with soil borings and that kind of stuff. But this is where the city has decided that they want to pursue. So we will get better costs when you do a site review and the engineering. I mean, the cost could be significantly more. If we end up with the 300,000 mark, maybe we can only get 2 because of the costs keep rising, as we heard Alyssa say with just construction costs. My skate park alone has increased in the year and a half that we're building it. So a design will look at the site. It will give us an estimated cost to make sure my number is accurate. And then potentially we could have them prepare all the bid docs as well. So it's well needed money.
I think Donna might have raised her hand again. I
Donna?
can't tell. Maybe not.
Muted.
Donna, if you were trying to speak well, we can't hear you. But if you're not, then.
I'm sorry about that. I was muted. I did not raise my hand. Don't worry. I'll see if I
Okay.
can take it down.
Okay. Okay, so the motion is to amend to 50,000 for feasibility / engineering study.
Start the project.
To start the project. Okay, so to clarify, if you're voting yes on that, we will amend it to 50,000. And if we vote no, then we're not amending it. It'll be a motion to deny that we'll still have to vote on. So, Garth.
And pass and we'll come back.
Yeah, let me do some math. I'm gonna pass for a second.
You gotta pass. We'll come back to Garth. Tom?
Yes.
Okay. Wisty?
Yes.
Okay. John?
No.
Okay. Susan?
Yes.
Okay. Giannis?
Yes.
Okay. Donna?
Yes.
All right. Dave?
Yes.
All right. Garth?
I'm gonna still say no.
Okay. And then Should have been thinking too. I'm gonna vote no on it too. Okay, but the motion passes. We have 6 votes yes and 3 votes no. So the motion has been amended to now be $50,000 for the project. So if there's no further discussion, we can vote on the motion for 50,000. And as we clarified, it's $7,773.69 from recreation, $42,226.31 from the flexible fund.
Okay, so I have a question about this. And again, when a lot of people, 5 people voted for zero funding on it, just saying. So say we give them 50 grand, to me, that seems like a goodwill gesture because we want to support pickleball, I guess. And then that money would go, that would just kind of hang out until the rest of that $250,000 or whatever.
Well, I think as Christy was saying, it would get the project started and they could do the full site assessment and engineering and all of that. And then they, like she said, they could even go out to bid and know exactly how much it would be for the rest of the project. But then nothing would move forward until it got funding either through us or capital funding.
Capital next year.
Yeah. I mean, this hasn't gone to capital, right?
This was approved by the capital committee and went to the mayor, and the mayor did not move it forward to Ways and Means. So that's where it stopped in the process, I believe.
Yes.
Correct.
So it
Christie, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's right.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, any other discussion before we vote on the motion for 50,000? Pickleball. Okay, hearing no more discussion. So now we're voting on actually recommending the 50,000 funding. Garth?
No.
Okay. Tom?
Yes.
Christie?
Well, would you come back to me?
Sure. John?
No.
Susan?
Yes.
Giannis?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
All right. I'll vote yes on this one. So, all right, that motion passes 7 votes to 2. So we will be recommending 50,000 for pickleball. Okay. If there's if anyone if people don't mind, do we want to take like a 5-minute recess and think about the upcoming projects and look at the process the numbers a bit before we continue?
Sure. The total spent so far
It's
Just for
200.
my color coordination, we're looking now at the ones in white, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
They're the ones remaining.
Yeah. Barn Beacon Site Bike Group.
Yeah. Giannis raised his hand.
I'm doing good
Yeah,
now.
just looking at the clock here, I don't know, like a 5-minute break. I know I was the one who suggested it, but now I'm regretting that.
Okay.
650.
Yeah, it is 6:50. Okay.
I'm good to go.
All right. If people don't.
That's fine.
Okay. So just looking at the numbers.
At how fast we
Well, we've talked about this for
I think we have talked about it. I think we're worried or perceiving that there could be like a major bottleneck or something. And I think we're trying to, that's how I feel. I don't know.
So
Can I make a motion?
yes, go ahead, Dave.
I move to recommend the bike route feasibility study of $20,000 from the recreation,
We're out of recreation.
from the reserve there, for the flexible.
Okay, so we have a motion, 20,000 for the bike study.
Second.
Seconded. Any other discussion on that one?
I'd just like to explain why I put more money than actually was requested. I had put in a notation that if we could get the questions that John had brought up around the meadows and see if we could figure out how to deal with the overpass. That extra money would be used for that. But since the letter came from George saying that's not going to be part of this study, then the 20,000 makes sense.
And just a reminder that that he did say that this is partially funding the project, and Deerfield, someone is submitting the other half, I guess now, to Deerfield to fully fund it. So I think we could make this contingent upon receiving
Yes.
funding.
I was gonna ask that.
Yes.
So do you think we should motion to amend it to add that condition?
Or change the motion.
Tom's got a question or comment.
No, I'm just gonna state my opinion. I think this is a great project. I think bike paths are great. I think it can be funded somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah, and I think we did get some public comments that said that as well on this project.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to amend the motion to include a stipulation that it's contingent upon receiving 20,000 from the Deerfield CPC.
Yep.
Is there a second on that
Second.
motion? Okay, so that motion seconded. So any discussion on that? Okay, so I'll do a roll call vote, amending the motion to add what I just said. Garth?
Yes.
Okay. Tom?
No,
Christie?
Yes.
John?
No.
Susan?
Yes.
Giannis?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm also a yes.
So
So,
that's to amend it, basically put the conditions.
yeah, so now it's a motion to recommend 20,000 from Flexible with the condition that they get 20,000 from Deerfield.
Contingent upon receiving 20 from Deerfield.
Yeah. So if there's no other discussion, we can vote on the,
Because
Oh, your head's down. I don't like.
my discussion on this one is, it's not a great project. Like, I don't feel like it doesn't specifically serve Greenfield. It's when we met with Stuart, like, it's another study, right? The COG has done studies about bike paths and routes, and, I've attended things for the last 15 years around, like, where could we go and how do we make it work? I don't feel like studying it again is going to change anything. I mean, for, some level of tip or some other like mass grant, there may be a requirement that we have a new study. And I think the COG could probably find that if there was enough push for it, or if Deerfield really wanted to make it
I think that,
make it happen.
yeah, I mean, I think that they could find money to do it if it was more feasible. If you looked at it and you said, I can kind of see where this, where this could be a possibility. But to me, everybody already heard my opinion a bunch, but it's not a bike path. It's not a bike trail. It's biking on the roads. And if you're leaving Greenfield on a road and you're going over 5 and 10 over that.
I mean, the idea is to put a path as soon as you get over the bridge.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't feel like a great.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, I agree. It's just not, it's not a great project overall. And we've had lots of studies, so that's, seems not, yeah.
yeah, and I guess one thing I wanted to add was with the email today about the funding, total funding being reduced to 40,000 and him saying that would reduce the scope of the project. I think I'm a little weary about that because we don't know exactly how the scope would be affected by the reduced funding, so it almost makes me a little, I feel like it's a little early to be doing the study, like because we're not really sure exactly now what the whole scope is
So
gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask, because I do have a dream that we would have a great bike path
Sure.
coming along.
Me too.
But this is not that. Is that what you
Right,
guys?
this is not, yeah, a great bike path, an amazing thing like behind the cannabis shop and and an elevated thing through the flooded
That's what I
swamp
want. That's what I
and
want.
over Deerfield River. So when you
Green
win
River
Powerball and you have $400 million,
And you can buy all that land.
buy all that land
Give it to
and
the town.
like get a right of way from Eversource, then we can build like, the 4-mile arcing gorgeous bridge that'll be lit up, solar powered. Drop you into gardens all the way along. It'll be
So,
amazing.
Yeah, so just to clarify, this would be a study for an off-road bike path solely in Deerfield. None of it would be in Greenfield. It would only be after you already cross into Deerfield. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on that before we vote on the motion? Okay, so we have a motion to fully fund the bike route study, 20,000 from the flexible fund.
Condition.
With the condition, that we added that they received 20,000 from Deerfield CPC. Garth?
No.
Okay, Tom?
No.
Wisty?
No.
John?
No.
Susan?
No.
Giannis?
Yes.
Donna?
No.
Dave?
Yes.
All right, I'm also a no. Okay, so that motion did not pass. 7 votes against. I mean, in that case, do we need to do a motion to deny funding? I don't think we do.
I don't
Because it just failed to receive
think
votes for
so.
funding.
Yeah, that's your vote.
Okay. It'd be a little ridiculous to have to. Okay, so we have 3 projects left here. We have the barn rehabilitation, and just a note, we still have $31,023.69 in the historic. The only project left in historic is the barn rehabilitation.
So
And then we have 97,000 left in flexible, which could go towards barn rehabilitation, Beacon Park, or site amenities.
So can I recommend?
Yes.
I want to recommend, however, that this breakdown comes for the barn,
Okay.
that we give the $75,000, but that's the total. So,
Okay. So
and
just
Christian's
clarify-
going like this.
So your motion
So,
is for full funding for the barn?
Yes, it is.
and that would be, just to clarify, that would be $31,023.69 from historic and $43,976.31 from the flexible. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion to fully fund the barn rehabilitation for the numbers I just said. Is there discussion on that? Oh, and John's recusing himself from this one, so he'll leave the room on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Susan, go ahead.
Yeah, what, I would like to give some money. Considering that the FCAS has property which they can use as collateral on a loan as well, and mentioned that if they would be able to have a loan. I would like to do the $31,023.69, but leave the flexible funds out of it. That's my thought. So I want to give them enough money to really bring down the cost, but I think that they should also have a mortgage as well.
And I guess Giannis, you want to go ahead?
You can go first, Travis.
Okay, I was gonna say, if you want to make a motion to amend the motion to do that, we could, but if we want to just discuss.
I can discuss it first.
Okay,
I
yeah.
can get a sense of the group.
So this was one that I looked at for a while and I ended up fully funding it at the 79,000 in my sheet. And I did that for a couple of reasons. And one of them, like, I know, you know, it was obvious when we looked at the public responses on the form that like a lot of them were there for this project. And I know it's sort of like, oh, you know, they really like tapped into a bunch of people who would do that, but any of the projects could have done that. And they were the only ones that actually got people to turn out to do that. And to me, that really shows that there are a lot of people who are really motivated. I mean, that's not like, you know, internet polls aren't exactly the best way to just make all your decisions, but that does influence me to want to fund it more. And then also being that this is the only project in the historic category that is on a property that's on the state register of historic places, you know, this one's already like a historic property, and the other ones, you know, the historic commission had to make that determination. And, you know, Greenfield, history of agriculture. I don't know. To me, it just really, it does kind of hit those points again, kind of with like the housing one for me personally.
So Giannis and then Tom after.
Okay, Giannis, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I tend to align with Susan in terms of I like the project. There's a lot of support for it. It's great, but I'm more in favor of partial funding here and going with the 31K.
Okay, and Tom?
I don't like this project at all, but I would be, I don't think yes, it fits all, checks the boxes and it meets the CPA, all that. I just think that money could get a better ROI somewhere else. But I would compromise and go with the 31,023.69.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think Giannis raised his hand again.
Yeah, I was just gonna make a motion to amend the value to 31,023.69.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend it to 31,023.69 in historic. It was seconded. Any other discussion on that before we vote on that motion?
So if I still want the full amount,
You would
then I
vote
should vote no
no.
on it.
Yes, if you want the full amount, vote no. If you want to reduce it to 31,000, vote yes.
Okay, can I ask you one
Okay,
thing?
yeah.
So so I'd rather have 31 than nothing. So if enough people say no on the 31, and then I guess the only option, okay, let's just do it. I'm trying to manipulate my way into.
Still make other amendments, like, right, if one amendment fails, you can be like,
Yeah.
you know,
Let's.
that make it.
Yeah, Dave's got a plan.
I like the number, the positive points that were made here, and I wanted to add, I was very impressed with Michael, his support, his being here, and particularly the work that's being done to gain additional support, additional financial support. And it's not that we reward people for their work here, but in a way, we're looking for projects that have the support and the organization and the energy behind it, and that's reflected in the public response that we got also. So all of that, in addition to what you had said, particularly Travis, was I think the whole thing should be supported, and that we show that we are really behind that kind of an effort that has been made here.
Yeah, Tom?
Yeah, my only other point on this is similar to the Deerfield thing. If this is in fact the Franklin County Fair, and it is, and it's great, that other communities should have some skin in the game as well out of towns that have CPC or through a town meeting article for a small amount. It should be a county-wide effort, not just a Greenfield-wide effort relative to public funding.
And then I was just gonna add on to what Dave said about, I forgot to mention, that was another thing that made me want to fully fund it was the amount of other funds that they have, because that was one of the things we talked about a lot. And in our scoring was, you know, what percentage of outside funds do they have? Or are they just asking us for the whole thing? And this is one where it seems like they're really doing a good job of piecing together different funding sources and, you know, and even though they were going to do the project anyway, it's in a way sort of leveraging our funds with other funds to, you know, cobble a bunch together and get a bigger project done.
Yeah, I just think that, you know, this goes back to some of your discussions with Stuart and stuff, that they are a private entity. And they are a private entity with mortgageable assets, which most of our others aren't. I mean, the other historical things are not mortgageable. And so I think that is somewhat different in terms of what we can look at.
Okay, any other discussion at this time? Okay, so if there's no discussion, the motion is to amend the motion to reduce the funding to $31,023.69 from historic. So if you want to reduce it to 31,000, then you can vote yes. All right, Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Wisty,
No.
John is not voting on this. Susan,
Yes.
okay, Giannis,
Yes.
Donna. Donna, if you're there, you might be muted. She is there. I'll come back to Donna. Dave?
No.
Okay, Donna, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, Donna's a yes. Okay. And I am a no. Okay, but that motion passes 5 votes to 3. So now the original motion has been amended to only be $31,023.69 from historic. So is there any other discussion before we vote on that? Okay, hearing none, I will do a roll call vote on a motion to recommend $31,023.69 from historic for the barn rehabilitation.
John, come back in.
Oh, yeah, John, you can come back in to abstain.
Bring some coffee with you.
All right, so Garth, okay. So the motion is $31,023.69 from the historic reserve for the barn rehabilitation. Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes.
John,
Abstain.
abstaining, Susan,
Yes.
Giannis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
All right, I am also a yes. So that motion passes. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 votes for it and 1 abstaining. Okay, so we have 2 projects left. We have $97,726.31 left in the flexible fund, which could fully fund Beacon Park, which is also up for capital funding, or it could potentially partially do site amenities or partially both.
I'd like to make a motion to fully fund Beacon Park at $75,500 from the flexible funds.
I second that.
Okay, I think Tom beat you to it. All right, so a motion by Susan, seconded by Tom to fully fund the Beacon Park project from flexible funds. Discussion on that?
My logic on this is they've already gotten $50,000 from the city. Money's tight. I don't see the Ways and Means going beyond that. So it just seems to make sense.
Yeah, I agree with Susan, and I think that, again, we got to look at this. The townsfolk, people are going to be looking at what we do here and the end result. And if we can have, something that people can be like, it's tangible and we finish something, I feel like those checks some major boxes for us as a whole. And it's very accessible. It's right in the middle of town. Everybody can go there. It doesn't cost money. They don't have to buy stuff or whatever, I think it's a big win. And like I said, it's already partially funded, so.
Yeah, I'll just add that was, for me initially, that was, the fact that it had already gone through the capital funding process, it got partial funding, and then this is where we can, leverage our money to finish a project. That initially had me thinking like, oh, yes, of course, we should fund this one. And the only reason I was thinking maybe not was because it was up for capital funding again. And I kind of didn't want to if we could use our money for other projects, if they didn't fund it through capital funds. But I can understand the point of view of if it already got capital funds, it might not get it this year too. So, and then if we fund this one, then the only other recreation project is the trails that maybe they would fund, hopefully. Maybe we'll knock one off the list and they can fund the other one.
Right.
I guess, I don't know all the ins and outs of how capital and what the mayor and or city council was thinking, but my sense is that oftentimes things are, oftentimes people just keep adding money in the pot, right? Like, oh, well, we can give you 50,000 this year and 50,000 the next year. And then by year 3, you can actually do the project. So I actually did a lower amount, figuring that, well, capital wants to happen, right? They already gave 50,000. So why wouldn't they give at least 30,000 this year? And so I would, I figured give a smaller amount to this.
Yeah, Giannis?
Yeah, I have to say I'm more compelled by Garth and Travis, what you're saying about letting capital do this and prioritizing the site amenities over it. Also in terms of, things that are accessible to townspeople. Both of these are obviously about as easily accessible as could be, and probably even more so for the site amenities because it'd be all over the town, right, and into the downtown area. So, yeah, I personally lean more towards funding that one over the Beacon Park.
Is Christy still here?
Yep.
Christy, I have a couple questions related to this. One was we had previously talked about the parcel that the bocce courts would go on is not currently managed by the recreation department, and I think it would need to be. And I wasn't sure if that had happened or if we should condition it upon that happening.
So I did speak with Danny, the chief of staff, about this, and depending on your vote, she's prepared to send a memo or a letter in regards to that.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is, since it's kind of between the last two projects right now, and I'm not asking you to pick one, but
pick your favorite kid. We're gonna execute the other one.
I'm just thinking on the site amenities, if the full remaining amount, which is 97.7 approximately, it wouldn't fully fund the site amenities. Would that, it sounds like that would get most of that project done. I'm just curious, your assessment on how that would impact that project, or what would have to be cut maybe.
Well, what's nice about the site amenities is that they can be moved, put anywhere. So we would just have to figure out which ones are our highest priority, and then wait for additional funding for whatever ones we can't fund. They're individual pieces. It's not like with the bocce, it's like we need all the money to build the bocce courts, you know? So I can get 2 less sets of chess and checkerboard tables or cornhole boards. So we, I can spend however much money you give me.
We knew that.
You're good at it.
Christie, while you're there, what do you think about the Beacon Park? Do you think the town will fund it? Do you think it's likely or?
I can't, I don't have a crystal ball. Like I thought it would be funded last year because we had gotten part of it, but then they funded the skate park, which obviously we needed for the park grant match. So I know that it's moved forward with the mayor's support. The capital improvement committee did not support it because I think they thought it was going to come from here. So I can't determine, you know, but I think we have a very supportive city council and certainly with Ways and Means on our projects. And so if it's there, I would like to hope that they would support it and then use this extra flexible funding maybe for site amenities. Christian, if I can ask a question, like what happens if they do support Beacon? Could you guys make an amendment to then transfer it to site amenities or a different project?
Yeah, I've seen CPCs, there's a process about like rescinding recommendations. But that usually is kind of a process that happens at the end when a project has additional funding they didn't use. So I don't know how that process would actually work, but I believe so. Plus, this is going to almost be in front of them at the same time.
Right.
So they can pick which one they want to fund it from, kind of. But yeah.
So John, I don't know if that answers your question.
I don't know. I mean, for me, like I said, I want to support Beacon because it's like, it's already partially funded and I want to finish it. And I feel like as our commission, it's important to try to support completing stuff and not starting another project.
Christie, what can you do on site amenities with about $22,000?
I was trying to pull that out when John was asking me questions.
Well, chess tables or something?
Yeah. Hold on one sec.
You have a what?
I have a scheme.
Oh,
There's a scheme coming. Cool. Wait 1 second here.
Here we are. Sorry.
no
I
problem.
knew it was coming, but I wasn't fast enough. So just to give you an idea, and obviously these costs could significantly have changed, but a chess table, it was like 3,000, it's 2,800 a chess table. With and then the stools were like 5 1/4. The cornhole was like 2,000 a set, and these are concrete, remember? And then the ping pong table, which I thought was kind of cool, that is 6,500. The foosball was like 6,600. The solar charging unit, it was about 5,000. And don't forget I have to have shipping. So that kind of gives you an idea.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Christie, does that include installation too?
So, no, this does not. Depending on where we put it, like usually I work with DPW, and because it's usually a concrete pad that we need, you know, or like the chess table that's on Fisk Ave, we put it on off of the sidewalk. So there was we just added to a pad over there.
Okay. So it sounds like things could get done with
Things could get done.
22,000.
Right.
But just not fully.
I'm fine with that.
This is not an amendment, but right, if we put anything definitive, then capital just has that to work with. But like, for instance, on Beacon Park, if we say we would give 40 or 50 or whatever contingent on capital doing the rest, that might encourage
Them to do
the rest, right? And then we have.
But they also might not.
They also might not.
get
Right.
funded at all.
Right.
But if it was at least half, right, the fallback was like you get one bocce court rather than two bocce courts.
I don't know if this one.
I thought that was from an earlier discussion, right? Because the plan was to have two and both covered, and like if you only get 40 or 50,000, you can build one. If you get the 75,000, you can build
Yeah, I
two.
thought about pickleball courts there.
Yeah, I know the pickleball was like that.
Christie, is there any kind of, if we only had one bocce court, is that part of a plan anywhere?
Yeah, our plan is to build two next to each other. You typically have two next to each other, rarely, unless it's your backyard, that you would have one. In a municipal setting, it's usually two, and that's our plan. One of the things that I was just thinking while you guys were discussing is that, if I may share, Travis, is that, as I told you, I go to Ways and Means next Wednesday. So I certainly can share the comments from this meeting, and if you guys vote to support Beacon, or if you choose to put the money at site amenities, then I will emphasize that, your hope was that both the signage and the Beacon Park project is going to be funded as presented in capital, because you guys supported all the other projects,
So I actually wanted to make a motion to amend the motion to include the condition that the land be transferred to the Recreation Department prior to the use of the funds, because I think it has to be. So that, I'm going to make that motion to amend to add that condition.
Second.
Okay, wait a second. Any other discussion on that? Okay, so on the motion to amend to add the condition that it be transferred to Recreation Department before any funds can be used. Garth?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Wisty?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Giannis?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
All right, and I'm also a yes. So that motion passes unanimously. So now we have a motion to fully fund from the flexible fund, 75,500, with the condition that that parcel be transferred to Recreation.
I second that.
Well, that was already seconded.
Yeah, no.
So we can either discuss it or we can vote on that.
That was Susan and Tom.
So was it decided then that we can't say something about if capital does that, any amount of it, that whatever the Beacon Field doesn't need to be, they can flip over? So, Kristen, are you saying that you really can't do that?
Well, are you saying like you recommend 50, but if capital doesn't do the other 25,500, it would become 75? Is that what you're trying to propose?
No, I'm saying that we're recommending 75.5. And if capital decides to fund it, that then we could flip it over to site.
Oh, I don't think you'd be able to do that as part of this process, because you're sending appropriation requests and it's literally like, here's the exact money we're asking for at this time. So it'd be like a different kind of process where you do an additional appropriation in like June or July or something.
Yeah.
Like Christie would come back.
I think, yeah, because I think any money that doesn't get used comes back to us.
Oh,
So
no big deal.
if they finished the project and they had 75,500 left over, that would come back into our fund.
Oh.
And then we could appropriate it. I mean, I don't think the timing would work out to transfer it to site amenities for this funding round, but I think we would get it back for the next funding round.
Okay.
That's my That's my understanding.
It's starting to seem like it's six, one half dozen the other because, we're trying to forecast what they're gonna maybe do. And that's why we've been going around and around, as if one was, on the other. And they're gonna get the message that we support the projects. We're gonna support one or both of them somehow, and they probably will be like, well, hopefully, pick up the slack and support the other one. It's not, I think. that
Well,
seems-
except not site amenities. That one's not up for capital fund.
Right, Beacon and the,
Right,
and the trail signs are the only one are in front of capital.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, the option is though that Christie could go in and say, CPC has taken one of these off your plate. And here's the other one we'd really like to fully fund it.
Right.
And so, one way or another.
The signage project.
The signage project, yeah.
Right.
So I guess I just want to, before we vote on everything, I think I'm feeling right now to fully fund the Beacon Park and then put the remainder toward the site amenities. Because it'll still get site amenities
Yeah.
and it'll finish the Beacon Park.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I like that.
Question.
Okay, so
Tom said he has a question.
No, he moves the question.
Okay,
So the motion is to fully fund Beacon Park, 75,500 from the flexible funds with the condition that the property be transferred to the Recreation Department prior to the project. So Garth,
No.
Tom,
Yes,
Wisty,
yes.
John,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis,
No.
Donna,
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
All right, I'm also a yes. So that motion passes 7-2. So we are recommending fully funding Beacon Park from the flexible funding.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion not to fund site amenities at this time because there's no more, I'm sorry, to amend the site amenities request to $22,226.31.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to fund site amenities, $22,226.31 from the flexible funds. That was seconded. Any other discussion on that? I mean, we've kind of already discussed it.
We have.
Yeah.
We have.
Okay, not hearing any other discussion, we'll vote on that one. I wanted to amend the motion to include a condition that these site amenities only are located solely on Recreation Department controlled property, because I haven't seen a map of where they're all going, and I just want that condition to be there, just for clarification.
Can I offer a friendly amendment to your
Sure.
amendment? On municipally owned property, not necessarily recreation property.
I don't,
No,
that's kind of a given.
That's a given, I would think. I think the recreation piece is important because then there will be maintenance for it, right?
Well, I think for recreation funds, it's
They have to
supposed to be on land that's.
Right.
That's what Stuart said in the meeting. He suggested what you're.
But since it's flexible.
Because I think what I'm trying to avoid is having it like on a sidewalk, or like sidewalks are definitely not allowed, but it could be city-owned property. And I know Christie said that it would be on recreation.
You just want to make it.
I just want it to be clear, just because we have to, that has to be how we fund them.
Second your amendment?
Okay,
So how's the?
Well,
So-
do we have to because it's coming from the flexible?
well, we're funding it in the recreation category of fund, like not from the recreation fund, but we're funding it as a recreation project.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the motion to say that it has to be on Recreation Department controlled property. So on that motion, Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
Okay, I'm also a yes, so that passes unanimously. So now the motion is $22,226.31 for site amenities from the flexible fund with the condition that they be on recreation department.
So you can't build cornhole on the town common. Or is that a recreation land?
We don't.
I don't know. Okay, so any other discussion before we vote? No, okay, hearing none. Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Giannis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
All right, I'm also a yes, so that passes unanimously and we'll recommend. We can all celebrate.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have, we did that.
Just since it's 7:32 already, I'll just say our next meeting is to be determined right now.
August, you said?
I think we should probably meet a month from now, like at our regular meeting time.
Yeah.
Fourth Thursday of April. I actually won't be here, but
When is that?
I'm going to be on a long vacation, so I'm going to miss it.
What day is it?
April 27th.
I won't be here.
Quorum.
Okay.
I mean, it's sort of I mean, the idea would be debrief what we want to put in.
And like what's going on at city council.
Right, and then like what we're gonna do about contracts. I mean, we talked a little bit about like, oh, what sort of signs do we put up?
Yeah.
But eventually we're gonna have to really determine that. And maybe that
And
can
we're
be
going to
May.
evaluate all the steps that we've gone through.
Yeah, between now and the next funding cycle, and then we have to update our plan if we want to and do a public hearing. So I think the next one will be fairly easy compared to this one.
Yeah, one flavor, keeping the plan as we have.
Okay, so April 27th will be our next meeting,
Okay.
5:30 PM.
I just want to say I am so impressed with how you two guys have put this together. It has made it so much easier for us. And
Yeah.
A lot of work and energy put into it, and I'm just amazed, and thank you very much for
Yeah.
doing
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'd like that in the minutes.
Okay, go. Thanks, Christian's done a lot.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded. I'm just going to do a roll call vote since we're all Garth,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Giannis,
Yes.
Donna,
I think Donna
She got it
waved
pieced
at.
out. She got it- yeah, she
waved at us.
Dave,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. Okay, we are adjourned 7:34 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm amazed.